Thanks very much, Grant. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honour and privilege this evening to have the job of talking about Jill to all of you. Now, as we all know, Jill is a total legend, so it's very difficult to know exactly where to start. So I did get a bit of help, I'm glad to say. And thank you to Anne and Ken for their trip up to the loft. They were able to send me Jill's school reports, which I have very carefully researched for today's occasion. Now, to be honest, they weren't that successful in terms of providing material, because they basically told us what we all know, that Jill is essentially a bit of a swat, a bit of a brain on legs, to be honest, very hard-working, very hard-working and generally a good round, an all-round good guy. However, one thing did stick out. It was a B in 1992. It was a bit disappointing. Now, this was in Jill's music report, and it was actually specifically for singing. And I think you did get a B. And anyone that's played SingStar with Jill will be able to vouch for it. So, I was lucky enough to meet Jill on our very first date at university, nearly 16 years ago now. We were allocated the bedrooms in Hall of Residence directly opposite each other, on the same corridor with our good friends Anne-Marie and Louise, who were sitting over there. And we didn't realise that, 16 years on, we would still all be the best of friends. Now, that is in no small part down to Jill, who, again, as we all know from looking around the room, has a bit of a knack of not being able to shake people off. Now, on that day, I remember being really struck by Jill's very long blonde hair and these fantastically manicured nails that she seemed to, in those days, maintain on a daily basis with this kind of big purple suitcase thing that she had. And she was also obviously very warm, very friendly, and just a really, really great person. So we had a brilliant first year in Leeds, before Jill met you. She did really well in her exams, of course, and she also picked up quite a few new skills. One of which was tarot card reading. We didn't have a television in our Hall of Residence, so we needed a bit of entertainment in the evenings. We really knew how to live. So we did buy Jill a set of tarot cards, and we would spend many happy evenings with Jill reading our tarot cards. She actually slept with the tarot cards under her pillow, which was supposed to make them more friendly towards us. I'm not sure it really worked out like that, but that was the theory. The other thing that Jill picked up in the first year was a life membership of TSUC, which is a very, very classy institution. It's the Tequila Society UK. Now, it would be in bad taste to give the details of the night that she did sign up for that life membership, but I can say with confidence that she did not look as good that night as she does today. Although, obviously, I can't vouch for what she's going to look like in a few hours' time. So, little did we know that just 2 miles across the city, the man of Jill's dreams, and I'm not talking about Adam Faith, by the way, was actually living in his own Hall of Residence. I have to say it was the upmarket version, with the ensuite bathrooms, much more expensive than where we were slumming it. And so we didn't know that, obviously, their true love was around the corner. So anyway, more of that later. So back to Jill. It was also very obvious to those of us who knew her in those early days that she had lots of, shall we say, interests and hobbies. In fact, if I was being less kind, I'd say she was a bit obsessive about some of these things. So in those days, it was things like Speedway, which I'd never heard of, but turned out to be something to do with motorbikes. She also was absolutely mad about this television programme called Love Hurts. And she didn't just like it, but she knew every episode off by heart, and her and Louise would used to talk about it for hours. Jill actually had a scrapbook with newspaper clippings. Very, very strange. The other thing, of course, that we know Jill loved was rugby league and the Keighley Cougars. She would talk to anyone who would listen to her about the Keighley Cougars, including when we were coming back from Leeds on a night out, a cab driver. She got chatting to the cabbie, being the friendly girl that she is, and started talking about rugby league, and he said, "Oh yeah, hang on a minute, love, you're the Keighley Cougars fan, aren't you? You were telling me all this last week." Now, the other thing about Jill, and something that she does share definitely in common with Hugh, is her love of food and drink. Now, I didn't like wine or pizza before I met Jill, and I'd never heard of peas pudding, but clearly she sorted that out quite quickly. She became one of the greatest customers of Lucky's Pizza. Not any old pizza, but always a mushroom pizza, followed by a mushroom bhaji. Another obsession was mushrooms, a bit weird. And then when she met Hugh, the new obsession was Nizam's restaurant, where they used to spend probably 3 nights a week there. They were so loved by the local management that they actually got an Easter card one year from the managers of Nizam's. Now, as the years went on, Jill's interests diversified, and she became obsessed with eBay. Now, Jill would spend hours searching for random and obscure articles, which meant, we all got some very strange Christmas presents for a period. And these, the searching for items was often to feed her other obsessions, I have to say. And there was one time she successfully bid for a holiday that none of us knew we wanted to go on, but obviously we ended up going anyway. And we thought it was a bargain at £2 each until we got some very strange mystery illness. But anyway. So just to bring you up to date then with some of Jill's other interests, obviously skiing is up there. Jill's been known to go on 4 skiing holidays in a season. Any opportunity she'll go off to the Alps. She wants to get on the slopes. And it's not just enough for Jill to go skiing 4 times a year. She wants to be on the first lift in the morning when we go skiing. And I can remember one particular occasion I plucked up the courage to say to Jill, I'm just not going to bother this morning. I think I'm just going to laze around. And obviously Jill doesn't do lazy, so the look of utter disgust on her face when I broke this news was terrifying. And I think she's only just really forgiven me for it. And then finally, of course, as we all know, because we're here at Wedstival, Jill's passion for festivals. Now, I think she would go to a festival every weekend of the year if she could, which is obviously why she chose to do that for her wedding, so that she didn't miss out. And I know that she loves nothing more than to go on the search for halloumi and falafel wraps while she's at a festival. So, given the way that she throws herself into everything with such enthusiasm, it was always going to be the case that when she did find the person that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, she would also throw herself into that relationship, which of course is what she's done. Now, it wasn't an obvious match, to be honest, initially. Jill was a maths student, Hugh was a politics student, and given that Hugh was only required to actually turn up to university about 6 hours a week, there weren't many opportunities for them to actually bump into each other. So lucky for them, I was also doing politics and was able to point Hugh out to Jill, partly because I fancied one of his friends, but that never went anywhere. And so from that moment on, Hugh became known to us as Gorgeous Hugh. Bit of a rubbish, unoriginal nickname, but there we are. And fittingly enough, they did eventually get together, and it was at a festival. It was a very dodgy beer festival in Leeds, in fact. So obviously, they have never looked back. Now, they have loads in common, as we all know, and one of those things is their friendliness, and the fact that they welcome people, and they have all of these great friends. They sometimes take this to extremes. There was one time, I remember, when we shared a flat in Islington. We'd been out for a night. I knew that they'd said, oh yeah, come back to our place, to a few people to come and sleep over. But when I knocked on their door in the morning to see if they fancied a cup of tea, I wasn't expecting to walk in and find 12 people sleeping on the floor and another 2 sharing their bed with them. Obviously they, on that occasion, took the kind of friendly welcomingness to a few extremes. So back to Jill for a moment. Obviously I've talked about lots of things that she cares about, and actually there's so much more that I could have mentioned, so many other obsessions, but also loads of other things that she really, really cares about. Fairness, equality, conservation, animal welfare. Jill is very interested in lots and lots of things, and there's so much else that we can say. Now, it's actually these diverse interests and the passion and positive energy that she puts into all of these things that makes her who she is. It's what makes her a fantastic, empathetic, kind and selfless friend to so many of us. And of course, it's what makes her a perfect life partner for Hugh. So finally, Hugh summed it up really well for us when we were preparing for Jill's hen weekend. Rachel, who was responsible for doing the Mr. and Mrs. quiz, asked Hugh what quality he most admired in Jill. Obviously, we thought we were going to get something dirty, but we didn't. He said that he loved the fact that she always sees the good in everybody, and that is absolutely true. So one final toast, ladies and gentlemen, to Jill.
Lovely, thank you very much. Just a couple of very brief announcements.